So Gracie, you've just heard a grey hornbill flying over. And of course if you were making a big noise you wouldn't hear that. And that's some of the beauty of the wild, that we can look at a wonderful animal like this and listen to the beautiful birds flying over and calling, singing their wonderful songs. So I think everybody, if you're happy, I think we're still going to stay with him for a little while. I think just because A, he's so magnificent, and B, because he might move. But I'm going to put it out to you that if you would like for me to go and look for the buffalo herd, hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV, just write buffalo or leopard, and that will decide what I am going to do. You are, after all, my guests, and my wish, your wish, to a certain extent, is my command. So should you wish to carry on and look for the buffalo, I'm happy to do that. Just let us know. Remember, you are on a live safari, so what you say now I will receive probably 30 or 40 seconds after you send it through, and I'm more than happy to do what you would like me to do.
Yeah, sometimes like if the small workshop is nothing, you can finish everything.
And we had a lovely question the other day about why it is that his head has got smaller spots than his back. Now, I don't know why that is, and I've been thinking about it ever since the question was asked, and frankly I have no idea, other than to say that it probably has to do with the fact that that's the front end of him, and so I don't know, I'm not sure why that would affect it, but perhaps bigger spots on his face would just look odd.
No, nothing. Even anything.
And there you can see his eyes beautifully now. Fiona?
It's moving a lot.
He's watching a quite astonishing vehicle try and make its way in here. It's got a roof on it. So I think it might lose that roof on its way in, which would be quite amusing. That's what he's looking at here. So, quite unsurprisingly, the Twitterverse has decided that instead of going off to look for what are essentially a huge number of cows, we are going to stay here and observe this magnificent golden, black and white cat as he watches us, thinking, good heavens, how does one get some peace around here? It is amazing how used to us they become.
Do they respond to that much?
No.
Good if they ever do respond.
It won't be favorably.
Oh, look at him.
Yeah, we knew
And
that was gonna
I must just, for those of you perhaps new viewers wondering why I named him, basically three names that were incorrect. He was named recently, and this only happens when they reach about a year old, by the ranger and tracker that found him. Now they chose to call him Madiba, which is the clan name of Nelson Mandela, our father, basically the father of our democratic nation in South Africa. Before that, the Twitterverse had already named him Sindile, which I thought was a rather marvellous name. Still don't know what it means. Can't find any Shangaan or Zulu words that are exactly like that, but it was a lovely name, I thought. Anyway, and I'm really struggling to get used to the difference. And so I keep calling him Nelson or Mandela or Xhosa or Sindile, and basically I just never get it right. I'm sorry about that, but Madiba it is, and Madiba it shall remain, with any luck.
Hello. I'm fine, thank you. And then this side only can see the back. Only tail.
Hi boy. Now, quite apart from just knocking about this place and enjoying looking at the animals, part of what goes on in the Sabi Sands, which is a 60,000 hectare piece of the western Greater Kruger National Park, where we are sitting on a small piece of, quite apart from the viewing of and enjoyment of animals, we also do quite a lot of research, or there are researchers around the place. And one of the things we've had to do is collect dung from leopards, which is well, it's a distasteful activity because it has to be fresh, and that is then being sent off to a group called Panthera, and they do amazing lion and leopard research. And we collected some of this dung the other day. Brent's collected some, I've collected some, and we've sent it off. And Michelle in Ohio, you'd like to know if any results have come back, and no, they haven't come back yet. I think it does take a little while. Now the reason we're doing this, and I think it's fascinating, is that we're trying to confirm patriarchal lines. So we want to know who his father is. We're all pretty sure that it's Tingana. He's been seen eating at a kill with Tingana in shadow. He has lived ostensibly in Tingana's territory his whole life, and so we think it is probably Tingana that's his father. But what is interesting is that his mother will have mated with, or she did mate with, more than one male before he was born, and she's done the same thing again now in her current estrus cycle. This is not uncommon for leopards. Now, of course, the major killer of young leopards is infanticide, and one of the ways throughout the mammal world that this infanticide is avoided is by females basically conning males, territorial males, into believing that they are the father of specific offspring. And so what we want to do is to check whether or not he is indeed Tingana's son. He might be Anderson's son, he might be Mvula's son, we're not really sure. Well, we think he's Tingana's son. So that's why we're doing the scat collection, and it will be fascinating to know. I don't think anyone's managed to collect any of Tingana's scat yet, or Anderson's, but I'm not sure. So that's what as soon as we have any results, Michelle, we will be sure to tell you, because I can't wait to hear them. The other thing that is interesting is that some species, especially species like cheetah, for example, exhibit what we call multi-paternity, which means that the cubs in a litter can have different fathers. So that's quite interesting. We don't know if it happens with leopards. We're pretty sure it doesn't happen with lions, but we don't know for sure. Look at that little fellow. Isn't he lovely? Oh, he's moved very far now. That was high action. Brian, how did you keep up?
Nearly fell off the back of the vehicle.
Oh no. Well done. You can see he's cold, just like your house cat or your dog. They curl up when they get a little bit cold. Not easy for a cameraman like Brian to keep up with action like that, and you can see he's highly experienced. Managed to zoom out the full 30 centimeters required without a single loss of focus. It was quite a remarkable feat. Well done, Brian.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Lindsay, we're looking now at this beautiful leopard's fur, and you want to know what it feels like. Lindsay, I'm comfortable in telling you I have no idea, because thankfully I've never been close enough to a leopard to reach out and tickle it behind the back of the ears. I have, however, been around dead lions, and I would imagine that the fur is quite similar feeling. It's quite coarse. I think probably less coarse on a leopard. Quite coarse, but yeah, I mean, you would imagine keeping them very warm. So think about a dog like a short-haired large dog, like a ridgeback, for example. A ridgeback, for those of you who don't know, is a sort of African breed that comes from Zimbabwe originally, and the ridgeback has got short hair, and I think feels probably quite similar to that on the back of this leopard. But on his stomach, of course, he's got that lovely luxuriant black and white fur, which I think probably feels very comfortable. And sometimes when we've been sitting with him and it's been a hot day or a soporific day, I felt like getting out and going and laying my head on his belly. I don't think that would have been a particularly clever idea. What remains of my hair would almost certainly have been removed by his claws. Lindsay, I hope that answers your question. I'm not entirely sure what it would feel like, but it does look very soft on his belly, I must say. So there we are looking in at his face with its little spots and his back with his large spots. And Carol in Atlanta, very good postulation that perhaps the spots on his face look more like pupils and help to disguise his eyes more than perhaps the larger spots. Carol, it could well be. I really couldn't tell you, but yeah, it could well be. Maybe that's why. I will keep thinking about it. One day I shall have a eureka moment, probably years after I've stopped working or presenting for Wild Earth. When I'm an old man, I'll be doddering along a shopping centre one day on a walker, and it will come to me. He is a remarkable creature. And a comment from Maggie that he might be looking hungry. Maggie, I don't think so. I haven't seen his belly, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But I've yet to see this leopard looking hungry, and I'm not sure. Oh, look, it's possible. It's possible that he's a little peckish after a couple of days without eating, but Maggie, I don't think he's certainly not looking emaciated by any stretch of the imagination, and without seeing his belly, I don't think it would be possible to say for sure. Now, what is interesting with these cats, of course, is that when they are hungry, they're thin, and when they are not hungry, they're fat, and that's because of the diet that they have. They don't lay down fat, and so when their bellies are full and they're digesting, they're not hungry. They're very only in sort of extreme circumstances will they start to lose mass, muscle mass, because the body is then digesting muscle, which would be an unusual and very stressful thing for them to occur for them. Ellen in Arkansas, very nice comment about the fact that you think that the young Madiba here is quite relaxed around the Wild Earth vehicles. Yes, I suppose he is, you know, and I think it's a function of, well, first of all, we do try and be sensitive with him, and he spotted something. But we also, Ellen, make a big effort to, we do sit a long time with them. A lot of these other vehicles come in and out because they've got guests who are only here for 2 nights or 3 nights, and they need to see as much as possible, as quickly as possible. We have the luxury of time with these animals, and so absolutely, I think they get used to our voices, and they get used to our voices, and they get used to our ways. And so he possibly is a little bit more relaxed around us than he would be around some of the other vehicles, but he's very relaxed anyway. So thanks, Ellen, for that. He does, you say you thought he was following Brent the other day as he was driving through the bush. Well, Brent is a fascinating character, so you know, I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame old Madiba here following him through the bush, probably trying to find out what he was going to say next. Just see what he's looking at. Brian, are you ready? High action about to take place. He may move another 30 centimeters to the left. Or not. Alright, we're going to stay here with him. And while he is starting to, his eyes are starting to droop again. Look at them going there. We're going to head back across to Scott, who's still with those 2 magnificent male lions. I think they're doing much the same as this cat is right now, but let's get an update from him. We'll stay here and keep you updated and bring you back as soon as anything develops over here. Bye bye, and see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone, and how lucky are we to have such awesome cat sightings this afternoon. For now though, the views of these 2 male lions are not the best. It will certainly change at some point though, and we're going to hang around for as long as it takes to get some action out of them. Interestingly enough, Brent has taken a closer look at a lot of your screenshots of these animals from this morning, and he is convinced that they are not the Seletis males. So I know it's a big debate at the moment between a lot of the viewers as to who everybody thinks these lions are, and I just thought I would throw Brent's opinion into the equation just to get everyone thinking. He's convinced that the Seletis males aren't as in good a condition as these males. They've got a lot more scars, and especially one of the males that he photographed at a very big dam in the Manyeleti, probably about 15 to 20 miles away from where we are here. And he photographed them there, and they had very distinctive, or at least one of them had a very distinctive scar over its eye. So I'm not sure if any of you have noticed, but on other male lions, he's not sure who. Let's take a closer look to show you exactly the view we've got. There's been a little bit of yawning and stretching, but not as much as I would have hoped for. So possibly still another half an hour or so before they start showing signs of getting up. But in my history with spending time with lions, even if it's with the same pride, their behavior changes from day to day, and they could get up with no warning and start moving at any point, so that would be first prize. Ideally, a big old buffalo bull would come walking past. That would certainly get their attention. But I haven't heard any oxpeckers in the surrounding area, so I don't think there are any buffalo around. And the other vehicles that have been driving around have yet to call in any buffalo sightings nearby. Interestingly, I've heard a little bit more conversation about the 3 Nkuhuma lioness east of us who are on a warthog kill, and it sounds like from the tracks around where they've killed this warthog is that they actually dug it out of its burrow. Imagine what a terrifying scenario that must be, to be a warthog with these lions slowly but surely digging into your burrow. Texans seem to think though that they could have stolen it from a leopard, so varying views from the different guides that have gone across there to have a look. But at least those 3 lionesses from the Nkuhuma pride are going to be well fed, and it's going to be very interesting to see how long it takes for the other members of their pride to relocate them. They are currently, I'm not too sure if they have been found on Arathusa or Sibambili, the other 3, including Junior, the young male. But these 3 lionesses with the warthog kill have headed further away from the last position that Junior and the other 2 lionesses were seen. So a reunion is not imminent, I don't think. See how long it takes for the other members of their pride to relocate them. They are currently, I'm not too sure if they have been found on Arathusa or Sibambili, the other 3, including Junior, the young male. But these 3 lionesses with the warthog kill have headed further away from the last position that Junior and the other 2 lionesses were seen. So a reunion is not imminent, I don't think, unless of course Junior and the other 2 are somewhere on Djuma, just without anyone's knowledge of exactly where. Not too much in the way of bird song this afternoon just yet. There's a few francolin calling, but you tend to find cold and cloudy weather causes the birds to not be as vocal as bright sunshine. Interestingly though, I can hear some Scops owls, a small owl calling behind us, which you'll be able to pick up, and they usually call mainly at night time, but in the last week or so I've heard quite a few of them calling during the day, and I've chatted with Brent about it. He's desperate to try and find the first decent sighting of one during the daylight. So you can expect to see him chasing after those calls when he and Jamie are on drive tomorrow. And one thing that I didn't do earlier was show you guys the white-crested helmet shrike that fluttered through a bit earlier in on the show. So I've got it ready in the book here. And this is a page of wonderful birds. The brightly colored birds at the top are the bush shrikes, of which we get both here. There was one of the grey-headed bush shrikes sitting on my veranda before afternoon drive, so that was a great one to see. It's a lot bigger and more bulbous and robust than the smaller orange-breasted, but very similar coloration. But the one that we got a glimpse of was this one here. And they've got this funny little white crest, bright yellow eyes, and fly around in small family flocks. We also get their cousin, the Retz's helmet shrike, but not as common as the white-crested. Both beautiful birds though, and it's very important for us to appreciate the birds and the smaller things out here, not just the big majestic male lions, because most of the time these guys aren't around and the birds are. And I think a lot of the small animals have been kind of overlooked simply because they're small, and unless you get a close-up view of them, you wouldn't actually be able to appreciate their beauty. So just to recap for some of the newer viewers, I know Jen is interested to know how old they are, and they were born in 2007 apparently, if it is the Seletis males, which Brent thinks it isn't. Either way though, regardless of who they are, judging by their looks, I think that their age could be 7, 8 or 9 years old. Anywhere in that bracket is probably where they are, and judging that thoughts on a number of things, their body condition, their main amounts of scars they have. They certainly don't look to be on the older side like the Matimba males, who are battle scarred and notably a little bit older. These guys seem like they are in their prime, which would put them anywhere between kind of 7 and 9 years old. But it's a huge debate at the moment as to who exactly they are. Haven't got confirmation yet, and I think it will be a debate for possibly a few more days until we get enough solid evidence as to exactly who they are. Lions are difficult to identify, far more difficult than leopard, because they often look very similar to one another and don't have very distinctive spot patterns that can help distinguish one individual from another. And scars usually form the best way to identify the different individuals. Scars on the face. Also the size of the mane obviously has a big impact. These two have beautiful big manes that look, from what I've seen, quite similar to one another. So they could actually be brothers or possibly cousins from the same pride. So I think they come from a very similar genetic pool. And on manes and mane size, Stephanie in Switzerland would like to know how the genetics play a role in how the manes look on different lions. And she said, is it area specific? And she mentioned the black maned lions of the Kalahari. So yes, certainly, Stephanie, there are certain areas where stronger genes have become more prominent, and the black man lions of the Kalahari are a good example of that. In this area, I've noticed a wide variety of different manes. Some very big, but blonde in color, not necessarily very dark. So a wide spectrum of different genes and manes occur in the Kruger National Park. Stephanie also touched on the white lions of the Timbavati. It's a very interesting genetic strain that occurs kind of in a lateral line from the Timbavati, but even deeper east into the Kruger, kind of east of Satara Camp towards a mountain range called the Lubombo Mountains, which is actually a very long mountain range that starts in KwaZulu-Natal, the province south of us, and stretches hundreds of kilometers up into Mozambique. Anyway, there's also a few white lions that occur naturally over there at a property where I used to work, and interestingly enough, there's currently a pride of 42 lions in that area called the Mountain Pride, and they have got 2 white lions. One is 6 months old and one is 1 year old. So that genetic strain is another example of how you will find certain genetics staying in a given area. But with the males of the Sabi Sands, I've seen all different shapes and sizes. The birds do seem to be increasing the tempo of their calls now. You can hear some hornbills. Kuruk, 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 kuruk. Well, like I said earlier, we're not going to go anywhere until these big males decide to do something. So we're going to send you back to James and Madiba, where hopefully there's a little bit more action unfolding.
Hello everybody, welcome back to young Madiba. There, I got it right, Brian. Madiba has not moved an inch since you last saw him. He has lifted his head, as that is as a function of the fact that he's just watched the only other game drive vehicle leave here. So as was pointed out to us just before we went off air to Scott to see the lions, and they are relaxed around the Wild Earth cars because we spend so much time with these young leopards and with the older ones, of course, but this little fellow, especially over the last few weeks, we've been spending extended periods with, because he's been all around us and so confiding, allowing us to watch his basically his growing up. So if we were to let's try and gauge his age. We do like to anthropomorphize as human beings, and basically what that means, careful Brian, he's moving again. What that means is that we like to sort of identify with them by putting human characteristics and human behaviors and human emotions towards animals. And I think it's a perfectly natural thing to do. Sometimes it's not particularly, it doesn't give us a very accurate picture, but I quite like to do it sometimes just to get an idea, because obviously that helps us relate to animals. So he is now just over a year old, and what that means is he's basically becoming a teenager. So his testosterone levels will start to go up. He'll become slightly more willing to engage his mother and other animals in slightly more aggressive behavior. That'll be because of his testosterone. He will start to spend a bit more time on his own, and we can see now that he is moving further away from his mum. Let us not confuse this with him becoming independent yet, but certainly he will spend further time away from him. So if you think of a sort of 13-year-old boy, that's probably sitting at about what age in leopard years he happens to be now. Heidi, you're clearly a great leopard viewer, and you want to know what his spot pattern is. Now, before I tell you, we can't actually see it, of course, because he has buried his head in that luxuriant fur on his belly. Heidi, his spot pattern is 3-3, and a spot pattern, everybody, is the unique spots that occur in a specific pattern above the whisker line on leopards. It doesn't occur so much in lions. You can, from lions' whisker patterns, tell individuals, but it's a very tedious process. It's not as quick and easy as it is with leopards. So if this leopard lifts his head, what you'll be able to see is 3 spots on the left of his nose and 3 spots on the right. And if I'm not mistaken, basically how you read it is for us left to right, and from him right to left, obviously. So he is a 3-3 spot pattern. Were he to have 4 on his left hand side, so our right hand side, as we looked at him, you'd call him a 3-4 male. He's a 3-3 male, and it's just quite a nice way of telling the difference between the different individuals, especially if you don't have very clued up identikits on them. So Heidi, that's what the spot pattern is. 3-3. Now, another lovely question from Peggy on email. And Peggy, you say his feet look huge. Now again, that's his stage of life. Just like a teenage boy will suddenly go from wearing children's shoes to fitting into his father's shoes, so a leopard cub like this has gone from having feet the same size as his mother's, and that was about a month ago. We couldn't tell the difference between the tracks. Now his feet are so obviously bigger, you can tell it's a young male now when you see his tracks on the ground, even if you haven't seen him making them. So Peggy, it's not an indication that he's going to be a particularly big male leopard. Again, our initial reaction to seeing a male is to ask immediately how big he's going to be. I don't think he's unusually large at all for his size. I think he's pretty average sized. We'll only really tell his true size when he is about 4 or 5 years old. Then we'll be able to gauge whether he's bigger or smaller than average. Remember that the size differences out here, because of nature and the way things work, and because size is such a predicator of success out here, so the bigger you are, generally the more dominant and successful you are. Little chaps like me, for example, in the animal world do not generally make it very successfully. And as Remay has pointed out, and I pointed out when we got in here, he has still got his baby face. Remay, I don't think he's on the edge of losing them, but certainly you're absolutely right. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen pictures of a big male leopard, but a big male leopard does not have the kind of inviting expression that this young leopard does on his face. A big male leopard is a pretty intimidating thing to see at this distance. They get a bit scarred, they get much thicker heads, their necks start to get much thicker. They have that kind of, I don't know how to describe it. There's a dewlap that hangs under their necks, and that makes them look a little bit sort of intimidating, I suppose. And he at the moment still looks very much in the flush of his youth, as it were. But Renee, yep, that's those. Enjoy those looks while they last. They ain't going to be there forever. We did see Quarantine recently, a 3-year-old male leopard, and he is he 3? He's 3 in December. I think he turns 3 in December, and he doesn't have quite the intimidating look of Tingana or the Anderson male or Mvula yet, but certainly doesn't have quite the baby face that this fellow does. So just getting back to that size discussion, if we look at let's look at impala. Impala males are all similar sizes. Very few are noticeably smaller than others. Yes, absolutely there will be a size difference. But if we look at human beings, the smallest male human being, you know, without being sort of, what should we say, on the extremes, is probably weighs around 60 kilograms. And the largest male human being, if you think of some of those NFL players or rugby union players, will be up to 120 or 130 kilograms. I mean, that's 100% size difference in males. Leopards, of course, and lions and impala don't have anything like that size variation, except where they're separated by different regions, and then they do. And obviously human beings separated by different regions tend to show similar patterns, but even within a region human beings show much greater variation in weight, and that is because, of course, to succeed as a human being you need a lot more than just your size. You need to have a brain that functions in a relatively useful way, and various other things. You need to be socially adept. That's obviously a huge thing for a human being, but for a leopard and a lion, your social adeptness and ability to make small talk at a cocktail party are not necessarily nearly as important as your size. So a big male lion is, in general, going to do better than a little one. Did you like that, Brian? Yes. I thought. Right. Okay, everybody, we're going to say goodbye to young Madiba now. Oh, he's just giving us a bit of a yawn. I'm sorry, boy. I know you don't want to see us go, but you know, fireside chat does call. We're going to head away from him now, and there's high action at the lions. One of them has looked up. That's all he's done. So we're going to cross back over to Scott, and he will show you the action of the lion looking down the drainage line. Hopefully they'll get up and do something. I think he's going to stay with them while we're at the fireside chat, just to make sure, because they're such a special thing for us to have seen today. And we're going to make our way out of here towards quarantine clearings, and I will see you just now in the golden glow of the fire. Please send through your questions if you want to talk to us at the fireside chat. Get them in early. We'll be talking about lions and leopards, and actually anything else you want to talk about, perhaps the weather and anything else. Okay, bye bye, see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone. And there's been a male lifted up his. Now they stared south for a few moments. The same thing. Now they stared south for a few moments and then started yawning and grooming themselves, which is a very clear sign that they are getting ready for the evening activity. And let's just all cross our fingers and hope that they don't go back to sleep, because sometimes they do after doing a little bit of grooming and showing some signs of life. But I'm confident that they're going to get up and moving shortly, and let's just hope that they move through an area that's not too tricky for us to follow them, because they are very close to a large riverbed with a lot of thick vegetation, which may make our lives tricky. is broken. It seems to be broken quite far down at the base and almost appears to not even be there. But I have been looking through very thick vegetation, so I haven't had a very clear view, but I can confirm that the other individual's bottom left canine is broken, which could mean that they are in fact the Seletis males, which some of you believe. I mentioned earlier that Brent feels strongly otherwise. And surely all this yawning, all the oxygen they're taking into their systems is going to help energize them. And shortly after a few more yawns, I'm guessing that they're going to get up and start moving. There's another vehicle approaching, but we're in a very tight spot here in order to get you this view of the one individual. And we're very fortunate in our smaller cars, a short wheelbase vehicle that allows us to meander through this thick vegetation a little bit easier than the regular game views, which are considerably longer. You can just see the other male snout on the top left of your screen there. It is heavily obscured. I'm wondering if I should reverse just ever so slightly and try and get you a small gap so that if he can yawn, or if he does yawn again, you'll be able to see. So, see what happens here. Just stay on him, Jando, otherwise I'm not going to be able to. Relating to these guys, the Nkuhumas, or Shadow and Madiba, or anything that you would like to ask Brent or Jamie or James that is not necessarily pertinent to what we may be seeing or doing at any given time, but maybe about life behind the scenes here at Djuma. And Brent and James are heading off on leave soon, so it'll be the last time for you guys to sit around the fire with them. So bear that in mind. And I'm guessing James might pull out his trusty guitar to entertain you with again. Oh, what was that? Was that a little yawn? I mean, a little call starting. Is he going to start roaring? Imagine that. Please start roaring. Yes, he's calling softly. He's calling. This could ramp up very quickly into a full-scale roar. Come on. Well, he certainly was thinking about it, and if it doesn't happen in the next few minutes, I'm certain it will happen before the end of the show. Very happy to hear that one of our youngest viewers is watching the safari this afternoon. And that's Isabella. She's just 4 years old. And she would like to know if these lions are very sleepy and Isabella, yes, they are. But just like when we wake up in the morning, we also might... Oh, here he goes. Another little call. But just like when we wake up in the morning, Isabella, it takes some time before we thinking clearly and moving at full speed. And this is kind of like the morning for the lion. Their day really starts at the opposite time to us. It's as darkness falls, and they're busy about to start almost a new day. So they've been sleeping all day and are still feeling a bit sleepy, but I think slowly we're going to start to see them a lot more lively and alert. And I'm hoping, like you've seen, he's just started doing 1 or 2 little calls, and let's just hope that he continues into a full-scale roar. It's been a long time since I've been nearby big male lions roaring, and it's something that I love to share with everyone. Youngsters to bully the older, weak and the timbers, but it's often the bullies who get taught a lesson when they come up against equal competition. And you're entirely correct, Mavis, I couldn't agree more. And no one's actually seen any physical confrontation where the Birminghams have got a hold of any other males or been in a full-blown battle with them. So there's no confirmation that that has in fact happened. I'm guessing it would have. But it will, like I say, be interesting to see what does unfold when these males do eventually have a clash and we're around to share it with all of you. And I guess that would be first prize, but even if it does happen in the surrounding property where other guides get footage or photos and just a little bit more insight into how powerful or dominant either of these coalitions are. A lot of the time in wildlife and in nature, animals will think twice before getting into a full-blown confrontation, and a lot of the initial debates or arguments are over vocal wavelengths and not physical ones. So they'll vocally communicate and size one another up visually, pacing up and down next to one another, but not necessarily commit to a physical battle. And that could have been happening with the Birmingham boys up till date, so maybe they haven't been in a full tussle yet. But that time is coming, it has to come. There's only so much arguing that can be done between the male lions before eventually a physical confrontation will settle the scores and work out who is in fact the dominant ones. Well, after all the signs of life they were showing earlier, the yawning, the grooming, a few very faint but audible calls coming from this male, they seem to have gone back a few steps and calmed back down. Interesting question through from Doug, and one that I haven't thought of yet, and that is whether or not any of the Mapocho coalition, it's a coalition that is no longer around, they were overthrown by the Majingalan coalition, which is to the south of us. And Doug would like to know if any of the Mapocho's offspring are dominant in any areas, or if any young males have survived and showing potential signs of becoming dominant. And not that I'm aware of, I've been out of that southern area of the Sabi Sounds for too long, Doug. So I'm not too sure. Oh, I thought I heard another call there. Let's take a closer look. Come on. It was either the end of the yawn, which I think it could have been, or that initial groan. that they let off before they start calling very loudly. He's thinking about something here. It's almost that he wants to let out a roar, but he's thinking twice about it, and I don't blame him because they are in a new territory that's unknown, but they were calling here at least once this morning and also scent marking. But you can see him, he's almost holding himself back from letting out a roar. And I don't know how long he's going to be able to restrain himself. I don't know if my mind's playing tricks on me or if I can hear other lions calling off in the distance. It's probably just my mind playing tricks on me, like I said. But he's listening very intently to the south and to the east, which is where the initial audio came from that got them up and yawning and cleaning themselves earlier. Come on. Another gentle call. This is better. This looks good. Come on. They're going to. They have to. They're just warming up, I think, for the main show. And once the first one starts calling, the other one will join in, and it'll be a duet that we hear. I've very seldom seen two male lions together when only one calls. Oh. Well, it certainly got me sitting on the edge of my seat. And the other male's just got up and started moving. I wonder where he's going to go. He's moving through very thick bush though, but it looks like he could be heading in a good direction back up towards the Djuma waterhole. I'm guessing he's going to take a short toilet break, as that they usually do a few meters after getting up. But he is heading in a good direction for us, where we will hopefully be able to relocate them. As you can see, it's incredibly thick here, so we may lose visual of them temporarily, but the direction he's heading in is perfect for us, so that's good news. And I'm hoping he's going to pop into a little clearing now. No, he's going deep into some thick bush, but heading in a good direction for us to relocate on them a little bit later. He's somewhere in that grey blur. You can just faintly make out his mane. Look at how awesome that is. Well done, Jandre. Some very good camera work there. And wasn't that a spooky glimpse through the grey foreground? He incorporates a bit of a roar into his yawn there that he's just completed. And I think he's just about ready to let out a proper roar now. Come on. Just going to get on the radio quickly and explain to yours that it might be worth heading up to where the other one moved. Yours, did you see that other one moving off to the north? So a soft little call there, nothing full blown. But certainly prospects are looking good, and I'm guessing he's going to follow the trail of where this other male has gone. There you can see this injury on the back left leg, and this is how we first saw him this morning. So it doesn't look good at all, but he's just going to stretch it out, and you'll notice as he continues to move a little bit more that that limp almost fades away into something very, very slight. And it's not uncommon for animals with injuries to really show that injury as they get active and start moving. But already you can see it's a little bit better. Yours, please let me know if you get that other one, because this individual is headed further down into the drainage. So ever so slightly they have got different plans, but I'm guessing after this individual's toilet break he will hopefully follow the other individual. Another call there. And it's going to take us a while to relocate them now. So I'm not sure if we may be going to send you across to the fireside chat for a quick update as to how they're doing there, or if you're going to stay with us. But either way, we've got really good options this evening. Fireside chat one side, and two male lions that have just got active over here. Very steep bank we had to drop down into to get into a decent spot to view those lions. So, like I said, they're heading north, or at least the one was, so hopefully up towards the Djuma waterhole, which is where they were seen first this morning on the Djuma waterhole camera. Just not copying any messages from Yorfs, the other vehicle in the sighting, so I'm going to keep trying in there. Yorfs. To let you know, the other one headed down into the drainage initially. Okay, copy that. The other individuals just slunk off to our right here. We're going to keep creeping ahead and try and work out what they do. Thanks, Yoss. It looks like he's going to meet up with the other individual. We will get a brief glimpse of him now though, as he stares back at us. The other one's calling. I think this one's going to join in on the call. Well, would you believe it? Like I said earlier, I've never seen two male lions together where one calls and the other doesn't. But that's the beauty of being out here in nature. You often get proved wrong and surprised. And this is a classic example of that. I'm still at a loss of words for the fact that we didn't get this other male joining in. I'm torn as to what to do now. It's not going to be easy getting into the area they've just headed down to. So I'm thinking what we should do is head up onto the dam wall at the Djuma waterhole and stand by for any further audio there. And depending on where we hear that audio, we'll get a better idea of exactly which direction they've decided to head in. And then we'll be able to plan our attack further from there. I think to try and race in here immediately wouldn't really make too much sense, because it's so thick that by the time we get to where they were roaring now, they could have already moved off into another area. At least we did get to hear a little bit of a roar. I'm sure you would have picked that up faintly. But let's hope we get a little bit closer by and both of them join in on the next call. They were both certainly calling this morning, that I can assure you. It wasn't just the one. You can quite easily hear when 2 or 3 or more individuals are calling. It can sometimes be a little bit tricky working out whether it's 3 or 4 or 5. Little scrub air running off along the road there. So now you'll get a good idea just how close both the Djuma waterhole is, as well as the Djuma camps, Tela and Gallagher, which you can see lit up in the distance there. Okay, well, while we try to work out where the lions have gone, you guys are going to have the joy of sitting around a fire with James and Brent and Jamie and hearing some of their thoughts as to this new coalition that's on the property and the prospects that could be the future of the dominant lions in this area. We'll try and relocate them while you're gone and hopefully pull you back to some good action.